No DQ Galaxy, we are live with a recap of AEW Dynamite for February 28th, 2024, the final episode of Dynamite before this Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view event. Shout out to everybody watching this, whether it's live or on demand. I appreciate your viewership and support. Let's get to it. We kicked off Dynamite with Hangman Adam Page coming to the ring. He had a crutch. They talked about how he was apparently injured at the end of last week's Dynamite. Page reflected on his world title win from 2021, but then revealed that due to his injury, he will not be able to compete at Revolution. At this point, Swerve Strickland came to the ring, said that he respected Paige, talked about their history, but said it's his destiny to win the world title from Samoa Joe this Sunday. And then we had the world champion, Samoa Joe, show up. Joe said that they are hungry, accomplished wrestlers, but they are starving. Joe is not giving them food, and he will whoop both of their asses, or one, doesn't matter, at Revolution. Swerve then responded, said that he'll do whatever it takes to become champion, and he said that when he gets through with Joe, Joe might have to go back to doing commentary and wearing a poncho again. You know, when Samoa Joe was wearing a poncho at WrestleMania 37 because it was raining. People make fun of WWE for that, even though Mother Nature is something out of their control. Then we had the swerve, not from Swerve Strickland, but from Paige. Paige hit Swerve Strickland from behind with the crutch and then yelled at him, said that Swerve will never have the world championship. And Tony Khan did confirm that we will have a triple threat match this Sunday at Revolution. It was a good angle. I think the big negative to this was the internet reports that Paige was not actually hurt, that the injury was a work. I think that took away from this, unless you're somebody who doesn't read anything on the internet about wrestling and you did not know about this. You would be watching and you would think, oh my God, Paige got hurt. But if you've been reading any reports online about wrestling, you probably knew, oh, Paige actually isn't hurt. This is just an angle. So I thought that took away from it a little bit. Like I sensed something was going to happen here, especially when Swerve was looking away, had his back turned, focusing on Joe instead of Paige. And we will be doing predictions for Revolution Thursday night at 8 p.m. Mikey T will be in the live stream, so check it out. Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, Revolution predictions. We had Renee Paquette backstage talking to the Young Bucks. They said their meeting with Ric Flair went great, but they want to conduct Sting's exit interview. We had our first match of the evening, which was Jon Moxley, Bryan Danielson, and Claudio against FTR and Eddie Kingston. Good match here with these six. FTR will be facing Claudio and Moxley in a tag match on Sunday, and Bryan will be facing Eddie Kingston for Kingston's Triple Crown title. It was a good match, competitive with both teams, and Bryan was doing the deal where he did not want to tag in and fight Kingston at first, but eventually got in there when Kingston was in a weakened state. And you had things break down on more than one occasion. Crowd was chanting, "This is awesome." Everybody was going at it towards the end. Blackpool Combat Club applied triple sleepers, but then Eddie and FTR grabbed each other's hands to break out of the holds. Then they started doing the stereo machine gun chops in the corners. And then eventually it was down to Bryan and Eddie. And Bryan, he hit the running knee to Eddie. He kicked his head in, and then he applied the triangle sleeper. Eddie passed out. Bryan was victorious here, did not let go of the hold right away, and built up some momentum heading into Sunday. Now, this was a good match, but I think that by doing this finish, it gives away the finish for Sunday. Bryan wins this one, so Sunday, Kingston will retain his title. He'll beat Bryan. You know, they made Bryan very strong here, but yeah, to me, just basic wrestling booking 101. Bryan gets the win here. Kingston's winning on Sunday. Spoiler alert for my predictions. It was a solid match. We had Chris Jericho interviewed backstage. And I agree with Mikey T with what he said here. They could have just had Bryan pin Cash Wheeler, and, you know, same thing accomplished. Bryan builds up momentum and doesn't really hurt the tag match at all, in my opinion. But anyways, moving on here. Jericho was interviewed, and they showed a video package with Jericho and this luchador Atlantis from like 30 years ago. So we're revisiting a feud that Jericho had with his mentor from 30 years ago. And Jericho hyped up this match against Atlantis' son, Atlantis Jr. Now, unless you were a CMLL fan 30 years ago and remember this, like, how could anybody in their right mind care about this other than the absolute most diehard of diehard fans? They're like, ooh, Jericho's going to have a match with a luchador. I'm excited. Like, I just didn't really care. And I sure as hell don't remember this from 30 years ago. And I was watching wrestling back then. Wasn't watching CMLL, mind you, but yeah, don't really care about this. And then we had Tony Khan introducing the debuting Will Ospreay. Well, he's already wrestled in AEW, but now he is officially full-time with AEW, and he was fired up. He's ready for the full-time work, and he brought up how he's already beaten Orange Cassidy and Kenny Omega. He pinned Chris Jericho at Wembley Stadium, and then we had the Don Callis family come down. Lots of heat for Callis. They were chanting, "You suck," and he said that Konosuke Takeshita and Ospreay are going to have the match of the decade. It doesn't matter who wins. The real winner is the family. And he had them shake hands. Takeshita didn't let go, started to move away, and then Ospreay didn't let go, and they got heated. So they tried to do something here to build up the match, try to build up some heat with it. I mean, I know it's going to be a great match. I'm sure it will be a very high-quality match, but honestly, I don't care all that much about it going in. Like, this, I think, needed something else. I'm not sure what. Maybe a full-blown turn against Ospreay deal. I don't know. Maybe they'll do that after the match. But yeah, I mean, I know it's going to be great, but don't really care all that much about it. If I'm being 100% honest with you guys here. We had the Young Bucks interrupting Eddie Kingston's backstage promo, and he said that they said that they were looking for Sting, and they complained about how Kingston looked, said maybe they need to implement a dress code. And of course, Taz had to take a little dig at WWE saying, I know what it's like to deal with dress codes, you know, whatever. We had Orange Cassidy versus Nick Wayne. And this was for the, I guess, was this international title match? I'm not even sure if it was for the title or not. Not really mattering one way or another because Cassidy's defending at the pay-per-view, so it's not like he's going to lose here to Nick Wayne, of all people. So Wayne was competitive. He countered the beach break early on, and then Cassidy avoided Wayne's world. And they were fun on the outside for a while. Cassidy went into the steps, and then Wayne came off the top with a moonsault to the floor. And then Cassidy started to build up momentum, but Christian knocked him off the top rope. Referee ejected Christian, Mama Wayne, and kill switch from ringside. So it was 1-on-1, and it was back and forth after the commercial break. Orange Cassidy hit the beach break, but Nick Wayne kicked out. Not sure why they're having Nick Wayne kick out of the beach break. Like, he's one of those guys, he can lose to the beach break. But yeah, everybody's got to kick out of everything these days. Then we had the Kingdom, or the Undisputed Kingdom, whatever you want to call them. They might as well just be the Kingdom at this point, because, I mean, they don't really feel anything more special than they were before. So they interfered. And then we had the Best Friends come out there to even the odds. Nick Wayne exposed the turnbuckle pad. Then we had Daniel Garcia show up. He distracted Nick Wayne, and then Orange Cassidy got the win with the orange punch. And then Roderick Strong jumped in to attack Cassidy. So match was fine. You know, they tried to do some final build up for like 2 different matches here. The TNT title match, build that up with Danny Garcia out there, and then have Roderick Strong coming in attacking Cassidy. So yeah, it was fine. And we had a little segment with the Bang Bang Scissor Gang. Max Caster was mocked for botching his rap on Collision last week, and they set up some sort of match for Rampage, I think. Might have been Collision. I'm not even sure at this point. Then at 9:20, we had the women's match. We'll see if things change when Mercedes Moné comes in, if they'll actually start changing things up with the women's division. But once again, 9:20 match. Kris Statlander with Willow Nightingale and Stokely Hathaway against Skye Blue with the TBS champion, Julia Hart. Match was fine, you know, back and forth, competitive match here. And we had the outside interference. You had a moment where Willow and Julia Hart were having a stare down. And then Skye Blue sent Statlander into the steel steps, got her back in the ring, hit a destroyer, went for an inside cradle. Statlander kicked out, and then Statlander started to make a comeback, but then Stokely offered her a chain, I guess, to use as a weapon and get DQ'd. I'm not sure what he was thinking, but he wanted her to use a chain. She refused, and then the referee was distracted with Stokely, and Julia came in and attacked Statlander with her title. And with the referee distracted, she got away with it. Skye Blue hit the code blue and picked up the victory. So it was okay, but the thing that I was a little perplexed about was that they did nothing for the match they got on Sunday. You know, you have Toni Storm versus Deonna Purrazzo. There was no final build for that. And then we had the Young Bucks going into Sting's locker room. He was not there, and there were just a bunch of bats hanging from the ceiling. Not talking about animal bats, but baseball bats. Mind games from Sting. Then we had Lionheart Chris Jericho versus Atlantis Jr. So they had a long match here, which, I mean, Atlantis Jr. is not beating Chris Jericho here. And I was thinking, like, how does this build up the pay-per-view? Now, apparently Jericho is on the card because originally they had a Meat Madness match, but they had to change it due to injuries. So it's now like some kind of a scramble match, like an all-star scramble match. And Jericho's in it. So they did this long match. Jericho doing the Lionheart gimmick for whatever reason, I guess for nostalgia, even though I could have sworn Jericho said in an interview that he didn't want to go down as a nostalgia act. So he's going back on that. Atlantis Senior was out there, and Jericho was going for the mask. Jericho was being very disrespectful, very heelish. Atlantis got in some moves, went for a power bomb on the outside of the ring, and Jericho countered, sent him into the steps. And then after the commercial break, Atlantis made a comeback. But he was unable to beat Jericho. Surprise, surprise. Jericho applied the walls of Jericho. Atlantis tried to get to the rope. Jericho pulled him back in the center, and Atlantis Senior on the outside threw in his towel. Jericho won, and then Jericho flipped the switch. Nice guy, raised their hands, showed respect. I mean, I didn't care about this. I thought it was just time filler. Felt like you could have used that time to build up one of the other matches. Just my opinion. And then we had our final segment of the evening. Young Bucks coming to the ring to find Sting. Instead, when they were messing with the fans at ringside, one of them took off the Sting mask to reveal Darby Allin. Darby Allin fought them, but he was quickly outnumbered. I was waiting for Sting to show up and make the save, but he didn't show up right away. They beat him up with a baseball bat. They gave him the EVP trigger, and still no Sting. So Sting is risking his tag team partner getting seriously injured heading into Sunday's pay-per-view, getting him with a baseball bat and such, and he's not out there. Ric Flair shows up, though, and then Ric Flair teases that he was going to attack Darby, but instead went after the Bucks, but he got overwhelmed. I mean, there's only so much a 73, 74-year-old man can do. He got low blowed, fell to the mat, and then they were going to finish off Darby. But then Sting's music finally hit. You know, Sting didn't even come out right away for Ric Flair. You know, his music could have hit sooner. Ric Flair is a senior citizen, and they could potentially kill the guy, and Sting is taking his sweet ass time here. So Sting's music finally hits. And I guess he was busy setting up his rig. He came down from the rafters, a little throwback to the 90s. One last time to wrap up his career. Sting coming down from the rafters, and he beat up the Bucks. And I guess he really had nothing to worry about with Darby. Darby has quite the healing power. He recovered from the baseball bat shot in the EVP trigger. He was back in the mix. And then Sting took down one of them with the Scorpion Death Drop and stood tall to have a happy ending on his final Dynamite, if you want to believe that, heading into Sunday's Revolution pay-per-view event. I don't think Flair's turning heel, though. That would surprise me at this point. I think Flair did about as much as he can do heading into this pay-per-view. So, all in all, I know a lot of people liked the Sting coming down from the rafters. And yeah, it was a nice nostalgic moment, but I have to say I was a little let down by this go-home show. Like, I just felt like they could have done more. And I know the show's going to be great, but this Dynamite didn't really do it for me. Like, I thought the angles were good, but I think they could have been better. I'm going to be generous. I'm going with a B- for the show. I did like the Sting coming down from the rafters part. That was cool. But I'm still thinking to myself, like, he should have come down there a lot sooner to save his partner from potential injury. But in the world of AEW, people pop right back up from baseball bat shots, getting hit with cinder blocks, destroyers. They're popping right back up. So Sting just knows that the current generation, they can take the punishment. I'll accept that as the logic behind this. So yeah, okay, Dynamite. Not the best go-home show, but it was decent. Thank you all for tuning in tonight. And remember, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, we'll be doing our predictions for Revolution. So make sure you guys tune in for that. Stay tuned to NoDQ.com for the very latest. And remember, say yes to No DQ, buy a shirt at nodq.com/merch, and I will see you all next time.